We learned this week of the date upon which the UK's Conservative Party will lose the next UK general election, even if it was not initially easy to tell.
Hooray.
We learned that Prime Minister, as of this broadcast, Rishi Sunak is arguably not a virtuoso director of political theatre, as he chose to make his announcement outside 10 Downing Street in hosing rain and well within earshot of an annoying attention seeker with a big speaker, both well-known hazards of British politics, and indeed Britain. Here's how that unanticipated sonic backdrop goes properly. That's Dee Ream's annoying 1994 disco gospel hit Things Can Only Get Better, repurposed in 1997 as a campaign anthem for a Labour Party hoping to return from a long period in opposition to oust a tired, bedraggled Conservative Party that everyone was heartily sick of. How times change. Anyway, we learned that the UK will go to the polls on July 4th, historically a pretty propitious date for long downtrodden people struggling to slough off the misrule of a callous and hapless government based in London. And we learned that the Conservative Party was not the only institution seeking to both encourage and manage the faith of its adherents. We learned of a commendable stand being taken against the cynical exploitation of the vulnerable and credulous by quacks and mountebanks flogging dubious supernatural phenomena as manifestations of the holy. We learned further that this line had been drawn by an organisation who may not hitherto have ranked high in many people's lists of flint-hearted sceptics of the kind doggedly unmoved by sobbing statuary, i.e. the Vatican. It is, from the Vatican's perspective, arguably a bold move coming out against the paranormal, given how many tourist attractions holy shrines derive their authority from a belief that at some point in their vicinity an effigy has somehow burst into tears of blood, a nativity scene has mysteriously appeared on a church wall, the sun has capered incongruously about the sky, or whatever. But we learned that the Vatican had wearied of social media-enabled stampedes occasioned by reports of the face of Christ appearing in toast and so forth, and had updated the manual for these things, a document enticingly entitled Norms for Proceeding in the Discernment of Alleged Supernatural Phenomena. From which, yes, we read it, we're good like that, we learned that there are fears of, and we quote,
the possibility of believers being misled by an event that is attributed to a divine initiative, but is merely the product of someone's imagination.
Yes, just imagine. But sticking with the subject of unlikely apparitions credited with virtuous qualities by glassy-eyed acolytes to the bafflement of all sane persons, we learned that we were to be deprived of the spectacle of former US President Donald Trump testifying under oath in his current trial on charges of cooking the books to occlude a hush-money payment to a porn star. We learned that it was almost like Trump's learned friends did not trust him not to perjure himself straight into the hoosegow, and that we were therefore reliant upon his weirdo cheerleaders outside the courthouse, including Florida, inevitably Congresswoman, and further reason why nobody should ever elect journalists to high public office, Maria Salazar.
The Lord Almighty, the Lord of Abraham, the Lord of Jesus, protect us, because we are in a very dark place.
Righto. We also heard again from the world's second worst Donald Trump in another of those videos in which our lawyers tell us we can say Junior appears remarkably energetic and animated, even zestful. From whom we learned that his father does, despite appearances to the contrary, enjoy tremendous, if furtive, support from the citizens of his hometown.
That's the reality. When I'm in New York, the amount of people that show support is actually huge. But they do it like this, like it's like a thumbs up, like hidden under their jacket, like so that no one else could possibly see.
Fun fact, in the 2020 presidential election, the voters of Queens, the New York district where Trump was born and raised, returned a 72% vote for Joe Biden. And let's pivot that sad trombone straight into some silly accordion. For we learned that France continues to ease the burden of the compilers of weekly news monologues and contribute to the general gaiety by doing at any given moment roughly the most French thing possible. Seriously, it's basically Florida after finishing school. We learned that the French Postal Service had not only released a €1.96 postage stamp in honour of the baguette, but that said stamp is scratch and sniff. Our lawyers tell us that this sound effect was deployed a satisfactory distance from any earlier references to any sons of former US presidents. So we learned that between this and the recent granting of UNESCO World Heritage status to the baguette is on a roll. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Muller.